All right, this is going to be a Bitcoin overall bullish, potentially very bullish market update. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano. Very focused on Bitcoin today because I have recently just spotted something that goes a little bit against a theory that I think I might have helped popularize, if not initiated, helped popularize might be a better way to say it, within the crypto YouTube sphere, of the idea that the cycle is not going to be a 4-year cycle, that they're broken. Okay. So something that goes totally against that, I just now saw it and I'm going to make a video on it. So this is a mixture of long-term analysis, and then at the end of the video, I'll do some short-term price analysis on these three assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. So let's jump right into it. Look at the orange line. Bitcoin was a very young asset back here, working its 200 EMA that just came into existence up to here. The next markets, so that is within this origin line area here, between these two lines. The next market cycle top happened right as Bitcoin's 200 EMA got to the same exact spot within those origin lines. Market cycle top happened right there. Look where we are now. And so that is above the white line. Okay. So once it gets into the next one, right? So let's make a guess at the slope of this line. Roughly the top of the market. What month is that? That's this December. What does that mean? That means Bitcoin might freaking melt faces. Fly up much past 150K, potentially. 4-year cycle might still be intact, folks. One thing that would go against this is the slope of this already was very aggressive. The slope was already very aggressive. And the slope here is not aggressive. It's just barely, it's, I don't know. It's probably, instead of this type of slope, it's sitting at about here. However, go look at Ethereum. Its slope is pretty aggressive. So from the time it needed to, let's say it came down here like this. So from this point to wherever its market cycle top was, which was about here, so just past this line here, which is roughly where we are now, was 200 days to market cycle top. Same place, 200 days. That puts us in March. But still, if a market cycle top happened in March, that would mean the 4-year cycle is still pretty intact. That would be roughly a 4-year cycle. And the idea that I've kept saying over and over, Ethereum, Cardano, and Bitcoin need to sort themselves out. Ethereum and Cardano are at or close to all-time highs. Cardano already set a new all-time high recently. Ethereum is getting ready to, it looks like. It's close to 4K. And Bitcoin is way behind. So Bitcoin needs to catch up, or the other two need to slow down and let Bitcoin non-aggressively catch up, right? Because I really doubt Cardano and Ethereum will tank as Bitcoin stays steady. That would be the third option, but least likely. So for example, in terms of all-time highs, all-time high here, all-time high here, all-time high there. Cardano, Ethereum, Bitcoin. Cardano is here. Ethereum is here. Bitcoin is here. I have a theory that relative to their all-time highs, they need to get closer to each other relative to their all-time highs. So this distance from here to there is too big. That's too big of a distance, in my opinion. I think either this needs to catch up as this goes sideways, okay, to Cardano, or relative to all-time highs, or These need to keep non-aggressively going up as Bitcoin melts faces, which I think is second or first most probable at this point, or third. This needs to come down. Cardano needs to chill out, and Bitcoin needs to make a fairly aggressive run. Not melt faces, but get up to all-time highs pretty quickly. I mean, within a few weeks, like maybe 8 weeks, but well before the new year. So that's what I'm saying in terms of sorting themselves out. And so what we're seeing here, going back to Bitcoin, is that if it's going to go from a non-aggressive slope to an aggressive slope, so it can get up here by March or so, or before March, for a market cycle high somewhere up in the 200,000 something range. So that would put it maybe close to 275,000, hitting that market cycle top around this top line, somewhere around there. But man, I would say between 180 to 300K. So within that $100,000 range between these two lines, Bitcoin needs to giddy up, okay? But what within the charts right now is indicating that it might giddy up, and there is something more on a shorter time frame basis, a short-term analysis, is that between the white line and the first red line up, Bitcoin doesn't just hang out there. It goes straight from the white line to this line, or comes up barely shy every time. There's not one time in history in an uptrend where it doesn't do it. Not once. So it's probably going to race up to this line, which is sitting around 58 to 60K. So let's take a look. Uptrend here. Let's zoom in. Went just blasted through and came just barely shy, which if it came up shy again, we'd put Bitcoin at 58K. So that's the first reiteration. White line, the first reddish pinkish line. Downtrend, we're not counting this. Uptrend, based off of this origin line, went straight up to this one. Did Bitcoin base off that white line? Yes. Even dipped below it, went past it, based off of it again. Guys, I think it's going to race up to here. I'm not for sure why I didn't see this, especially after this higher low. I feel kind of foolish now. I should have seen that. But this is just how it moves. If it bases off of here, and but this didn't really look like an uptrend at the time. So maybe I don't feel so foolish because but still, I should have. I don't know. I should have been leaning a little bit more bullish at that point. Yeah, I really should have been. So everything in the charts is saying it's going to race right up and maybe come shy. So let's keep scooting back. So again, I'm focused on the area between the white line and this red line. Downtrend, I'm not counting that. Well, I'm not focused on that. Here, it just raced past, went slightly above that origin line. And that's the whole history between those two lines. It just races up to the next one. It just does. And here, this is where it was basing off of it, and it took a dip and based off of it again. So after a base off of it, it just races up. And we've already based off of it twice. Similar to how it based off of it here once, based off of it twice. Looks like it's going to race up, folks. And you might get your correction, something like this, here a little later. So let's actually take a fractal to see what this does. So base off, go a little higher. I'm going to squeeze this down just a tiny bit. Maybe. Let's see here. So I'm going to try to line up the point at which it based off of it then to where it based off of it this time. So you see how without this hey, my hiccups went away. How it based off here, I'm going to try to put like this base off aligned with this. See what happens here. And I'm going to shrink it down because previous price action was a little bit more aggressive than it is now. Something like that. So if something similar were to happen, you would hit 58 to 60K and then take down back to 40K if something like that were to happen, and then aggressively keep going. So let's take the next fractal here. even though fractals are kind of like voodoo magic, they're not guaranteed to work. It's just how price has moved in the past, which gives a decent chance that that maybe is how price will move in the near future. So I'll take it from here to there for the next pump, right as things get parabolic. So if you were to see that type of downturn, that is getting ready for a parabolic move. So the next little pump would take you to 100K around November. I don't want to get all that parabolic move. That's pretty hot. I'll get most of it though. And then just connecting it, even though I could have just taken one fractal, but I want you to see how I piece this together. So a little bit more of a downturn like that. And that puts us up really close to this upper line, which Bitcoin has hit every market cycle high. Came up shy there, came up shy there, would come up shy here. That would put it over $250,000 if we were to do something similar. Now, does Bitcoin have to behave this exact way this next time? No. I actually would say, I would guess it's not going to behave that way this time. I would assume that Bitcoin might behave a little bit more like 2019, 2020, where you get these consolidation periods like this. And I would guess that might happen close to these all-time highs, or after it screams past, comes back down, then consolidates. I think one of those two would happen. So what I think might happen in a mid-term sense is something like this. Make all-time highs, then base right off of your all-time high to really prove it as support before you make your next run. And that would put you to November. And then perhaps something to this effect. You would have some type of run up. Let's say, let's just pick a run near the end here. Let's pick most of it. And that puts you around the new year, just after early February, early mid-February, right near that line, just under 300K, if something like that were to happen. That would be my personal guess. I think you're going to have a pretty long consolidation period up here, but that's just one guess among many, 80 days or so. And within there, I would guess you would have a scare back down to retest this origin line. I would kind of guess that back down to 47K, something like that. I'm kind of anticipating one scare down after a scream up, scare down, get people out, then scream up. Just like there was a scare down on this last one, then a scream up. I would assume something similar would happen, but without three, without a 1, 2, 3. I would guess it'd just be one big one, scare down, then come up. And that's exactly what happened in 2013. So let's take a look at 2013. So honestly, folks, the 4-year cycle might be intact. I really don't know what to think about this at this juncture here. Okay, so you're scared down. If I can zoom in here real fast. So I'm focusing in on 2013. Hopefully, nope. Yep, your scare down would be something like this. Consolidation, scare down. So let's take this and try to line that with bouncing off all-time highs. Not taking it to a market cycle top or anything. So the two things that I think are most likely here is that you will consolidate just under all-time highs and have a scream down before it books it, or you will get above all-time highs, get wick past this origin line, which is pretty common, a wick past. You ride it, have your scare down, come back up, get above it, base off of it, retest it, and then start your run. Which, if that were to happen, getting closer to all-time highs would put you around the new year. I honestly think something like this is going to happen. I'm not for sure on which side of the line, here or here. Either way, that would take it down to about 46K if it happens below. And if it consolidates above the all-time high, 53K. Right above current price. So this is more of a midterm analysis that I'm doing right here. And mixture of a short-term analysis. Okay, so going back to Bitcoin and Ethereum's line in the sand that I had been talking about in my most recent video or 2 videos of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still flirting with it, but it looks pretty good. So as most people within my community, especially the Patreon community, if you want to check that out, links in the description section. We mostly play alts though. So if you're not an altcoin person, might not be the right place. We're a bunch of altcoin nerds, B-Pro. A lot of the coins that, we're trying to get coins that have really monster gains going in. A lot of my community goes into fundamentals because that's where I lack. I don't spend my time there. So we essentially amplify each other or supplement, complement each other, whatever word you want to use. And then that's how our community is thriving right now. They feed me that and I feed them charting and we're good to go. The community is actually working out pretty well right now. And green candles obviously helps, right? But so as most of the community knows, if you go into a range with like choppy price action, down here, up here, whatever, and you form a horizontal, upper and lower horizontal of most price action, and you had wicks up here, okay, or candle bodies closing around here, the highest candle body closed here. Once you have one close above all of them, a daily closure just above, the next day is usually a big one. And look at what's happening. You have a range here. The highest candle closings are this one and this one. And this day is very likely going to close above. So I think tomorrow is going to break that line in the sand. Even if today does, doesn't matter. I think tomorrow's candle would be bigger than today's, regardless. That's just how price moves. And Cardano recently moved very, very similarly to that. I'll show you just how that rule applies to other assets. I mean, it's just how price moves. I don't know why necessarily. Well, I do know why, because it brings buyers in. In this range here on the weekly, and I even called this, like, I even said very specifically before that big green candle happened, I said, once a week closes above here, the next week will be a massive green candle. See how this closed just above these highest closings? Look what happened next. Kablam. A green candle even bigger than that big green candle. It's just how price moves. And that works on the 4-hour chart. I wouldn't say much lower than that, but 4-hour, 1 day, and weekly charts, that is just how price usually moves. Does it always move that way? Absolutely not. You can get rejections. You can have fake outs. A weekly coming here for a fake out because big players, market makers like to trick people who trade traditionally, which is the way you probably should play. And especially if you don't have $1 billion to play with, so you can do this stuff to get people to go long, and then they're planning on tanking it on them the whole time. Sometimes that happens, but rarely, because there are too many buyers that step in. That'd be risky for a market maker to play that. So that's why it doesn't happen very often, and that's why I maintain that's just how price moves. But there are some fake outs sometimes. Just like actually Bitcoin had a fake out to the downside. Bitcoin did the exact reverse of that. It broke this trend here, had a fake out to the downside, tagged this origin line, and screamed up. This was a bear trap. Perfect one. And it closed barely below the weekly 55, which is very bearish. The next 2 days were red, and then on Wednesday it screamed up and it started this whole run, which honestly, if you go back to my video around July 19th, or no, even before this weekly candle, I was calling it here. I said next week I bet the first 2 days are down, and then it starts screaming. That's exactly what happened, because it's just very common. It's just, if you're going to make a bear trap, that's how you do it. You go down the first 2 days of the week, then you scream it up. And you try to close it below a certain point, which was the weekly 55. And even when it was above the weekly 5 this week, I said, I think market makers are going to try to close it just below the 55. That's exactly what happened. So fake outs do happen both ways. It's just pretty rare. This was a little risky for them because a lot of sellers could have stepped in. A lot of sellers, but this was still part of that 𝐍𝐋𝐘 cartel, the folks with, a big group of people, each with a lot of money. So that risk was mitigated, I guess, by having a large, a number of organizations within the same group looking at in coordination with each other. I believe that coordination is now gone because 𝐍𝐿Koff is now dismantled. It's now completely invalidated 100%. So I think their agreement has now ended. I don't think you're going to see those plays. But put it on the weekly 55 to see a fake out here. Weekly 55. Blam. So you can see how price closed just below it. Next 2 days down and shebang. So let's take a look at Cardano. Let's see if it's running out of steam. Weekly. Looks like it might want to come down and check this. I think Cardano actually might hang out for a while and let Bitcoin catch up. Typically Cardano doesn't have to check it all the way. No, like over here, it didn't check it all the way. But once you get too much separation from the EMA, especially on the weekly, you need to come down. You need to base for a couple weeks. So this wasn't nearly coming down, but it didn't go. Actually, let's just go to price. Let's see what it did there. Well, Cardano's pretty volatile. That might have been like a 30% move down. Cardano's just wickedly volatile. So January 18th around there. Yeah, right here. So it just hung out. See, that's what I think Cardano's getting ready to do. And then I think it's going to do a number one of these and go to the next origin line. So Cardano specifically, I think this is I think that's about ready to happen. And so I think the next 2 weeks might just hang out. They might be small greens, one small red, one small green, just hanging out. It doesn't have to be red. And then I think Cardano's going to fly. I think Cardano's going to get above $4 relatively soon. Maybe before October 15th. Within a few weeks, I just think it's going to hit that origin line or come just shy, kind of like it did here. It came just shy. So if it came just shy, just a little bit low, that's still over $4. $4.15 to $4.60 is my price target within an 8-week period, not a daily period. So it's not going there tomorrow. Please listen to what I'm saying. A lot of folks say, you guys going to $4. Yeah, like in six weeks or something, right? Not tomorrow. I'm on the weekly time frame. So hell, you could have a 20% dip on 2 days, and it still hits that target, right? But you said it's going long, Tim. Yeah, on the weekly, which there's a lot of movement within a week, all right? So, yeah, I think Cardano's going to hit this line relatively soon. I really do. And the way I made this line, if you want to make it on your chart, is it's actually the baseline of Cardano. So this is a really important line. You might want to draw at least 2 lines in here. So you go back in time to the bear market of 2018, okay? And you connect the dips here. Okay, see how it all based off the same line? So you roll it up, roll it up, roll it up, roll it up. You connect it to these heights here. Okay. And I think that's where it's going. Because that's just how price moves. That's just how it goes. There's not going to be much hanging out in this no man's land here. I think it's going to giddy up, folks. I think this market's getting ready to get really hot. I mean, honestly, September, October, November, December might all be green months, folks. This might be the very beginning of the parabolic move. I think it's possible. I think it's possible. And again, I said, call me a politician or whatever, I don't want to name presidents or prime ministers' names or anything like that, but you're supposed to flip-flop very regularly. You don't just choose one thing and hold on to it. That's very unhealthy, right? So there are a lot of traders out there who have been perma bears, and I've been more cautious, but not totally bearish, like calling for 18, 20K Bitcoin. Oh, it's going to drop, all that stuff. I haven't been like that bad, but I have been too cautious, and I didn't get bullish soon enough. But if I had to choose one, I would still choose to be a little bit more cautious. Did it bite me in the butt this time? Absolutely did. I really didn't anticipate this, but now it's just so definitive with Cardano breaking new all-time highs. This could be the beginning of the parabolic move, folks. It really might be. Like, the stuff might get really, really, really hot, and which could lead to Bitcoin not consolidating too terribly long, maybe 60 days up here, and then it just takes off. So that is my analysis. It's a little bit different of analysis today, but the whole 200 EMA thing just showed me, holy crap. I think the 4-year cycle is technically still barely intact. It's hanging by a thread, sort of, and Bitcoin really needs to giddy up before it consolidates. It needs to hit 60K, 58K before it does anything. And honestly, I think it needs to hit more closer to 70. I think it needs to get above all-time highs before it consolidates, which is exactly that might be exactly what happens. It might come up to this next. Honestly, Bitcoin might come up to this next origin line, and then base off the lower one right here, which would be right around the all-time highs. So it's really exciting, folks. I think Green Candle Town is back. And I gave you in my video yesterday, so if you didn't watch my yesterday video, I showed you 3 exact and very simple things to look out for to put your guard up, to get really defensive, number 2, and then to start jabbing and punching, kicking and screaming for number 3 in terms of being defensive for a downturn. I gave you 3 exact targets, so go ahead and look at that. So I'm being super bullish in this one. However, I still want to give you the tools to know when to stop being that bullish, right? And so if you didn't see that video, go to that video, watch it, and I give you the exact tools to look out for. They're very simple. Check it out. If you're new and you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe, hit that bell, and smash the likes. Returning folks, help me out with the likes here. Again, I got some folks coming here just to hit thumbs down and they peace out. That's the only reason why they have the bell, and it'll also help me continue producing content for you. If you want to play alts for bigger gains than Bitcoin and Cardano and Ethereum can provide to you on average, even though Cardano and Ethereum these last few weeks have been pretty hot, on average though, go ahead and check out my community. I give exact examples, screenshots, everything of the things that I provide, so you can tell if it'd be worth your time and your investment to join that. And y'all just got typified.